Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Road to Grandmaster series. This is episode number 45. This is the third round of my fourth tournament, and these numbers are only going to get higher and higher, so pretty soon you're going to have to really keep track of all this. My fourth tournament back in action, and this is the worst one so far. I've started this tournament with 2 defeats. This is also my just woke up voice, so you can tell me how it sounds in comparison to the normal one. And it doesn't get any easier in these round-robin tournaments because you play a bunch of people who are 23, 24, 2500, whether you win or lose. This game features a funny story. It features really quite insane moves. It features a bunch of psychological roller coasters and everything in between. So I hope you enjoy this game. And a friendly reminder that we have a Labor Day sale on Chessly going on. I can promise you the courses will help you improve ELO. You will not lose the first 2 games of your tournament. But as you can see, you can be totally well prepared, and then things don't go your way anyway. So that is how chess goes. But we keep on improving. I keep on improving. You keep on improving. We do it through courses, through, even I read books for the master level. So Mark Paragua is a fascinating guy. At his peak, he was 2,600 FIDE. Now he mostly coaches, and I don't know what else he does. Very nice guy. I've played him multiple times, and every time we play, we've entered into the Grunfeld. I've even played him on this YouTube channel, I think in Charlotte in 2021. He's really a Grunfeld and King's Indian player. And then, for whatever reason recently, he decided that he's no longer playing G6 systems the same way a bunch of people have. And even though he played the King's Indian twice in August, I looked at his database, and, I started with C4 because my intention was to meet, his Grunfeld or King's Indian with something along those lines. But then he played E6. And I was like, really? So this is where the funny story begins. He doesn't play C4, E6. So I had a moment is he trying to repeat my game against Jurabek? Remember C4, E6? That's what Jurabek played against me. So I thought, okay, well, maybe it's a moment, to play the same type of system and gain some experience. I thought about playing other systems. I thought about just doing this, D4. Now, he either plays a Queen's Gambit declined or a Nimso Indian, and I was like, he doesn't play this opening. Now, sometimes in these tournaments, you don't make the best decisions in the opening too, right? And so what I did is I repeated, the way I played against Jurabek, and I thought, well, the guy is obviously not going to play the exact same way, so he did. I was bewildered. I thought, what? So he's playing against me the exact same way that Jurabek did. Jurabek played bishop d6 first. I'm not sure it's a huge difference. I was like, but I just studied this, right? And I took and played g3, and then he went bishop d6. And I was like, okay, bishop g2. And now castles. And I started noticing he's not developing his bishop. He played rook e8 here, for example. Okay. He can develop the bishop at any point. I played rook e1, and I'm like, okay, well, he's going to go here and here, and then I'm going to play like I did against Jurabek, and I like that game, right? The Jurabek game, but I was, shocked that he was repeating, right? Jurabek played knight e5, wasn't the best move, but whatever, it was a move. Then after rook e1, knight bd7, and b3, he showed me his secret weapon here. That's not a euphemism. He played knight c5. And it was obvious that he was trying to put the bishop on a6 to hit my d3 square. Another way of doing this is to play bishop to a6 before white castles, right? And then there is d3, and then he did it the way he did it. He did it in his move order. And then, right, because I played d3, bishop a6, now bishop f1. So 2 funny stories in one from this position. I saw this position. Even before the tournament started here, I looked at this position with the engine. Why? Because where I just played in Italy, this position happened 2 boards away from me. The person playing with the white pieces was Kaustav Kundu, Indian international master, which really doesn't say much because there's probably like 10,000 of them at this point. But he's strong. He actually tied for first in the tournament, like super sneakily. He was having kind of a regular tournament, and then he won 3 games in a row, and he got first place. So he was playing with white, Kaustav, and his opponent was this young, I think, Polish guy. Like, every video features a Polish guy. Might have not been. I don't remember. His last name was vaguely European, so for me, he could have been from 20 different countries. He was a European guy, let's put it this way. And the guy played knight to e6, and black blitzed all his moves. So I've seen this position before, and I remember thinking, this looks really annoying. And then Kaustav played great. He played like bishop b2. His opponent went c6. And then he, slowly just like expanded on the queen side. And I was like, looking at this position before the tournament, thinking, okay, well, this is annoying, but I doubt it happens. And it happened. And all I remember looking at is there is a draw here. You go bishop g2, reposition the bishop on the better diagonal, and the kind of like sometimes it's this happens in a chess game where you get to a position and black doesn't have to repeat, but they absolutely can. And if they don't repeat, you can take advantage of the small imbalances in the position. Now, I had a thought here after bishop g2. My thought was, I'm playing a guy, right? He has 2 points. He did win a nice game against one of the young players, and then he beat the lowest rated player. But I'm thinking, it's the evening game. I'm playing white. I'm playing a GM. It's not like the GM is going to make a GM norm. The GM norm, and all GMs in these tournaments are like given appearance fees, they give an opportunity for the young players to get points off them. Clearly not him. And I'm thinking like, ain't no incentive for him to play. And listen, I got to make content for this channel, but I am more than happy to make a draw. I have no points. Like if I throw away a game with white and just make a draw, I go home, I barely spend any time on this game, I rest, and tomorrow we recharge the batteries. Which is why I actually spent 10 minutes, because I actually thought about like, the lesson here, right? Like what I'm trying to, it sucks that you're going to follow your favorite content creator and, his game ends in 30 minutes, but you see it in top level games all the time. All the time, they make quick draws at some moments in the tournament. Not by night dancing and getting forfeited by FIDE. That was pretty wild. So I played bishop g2, and it's basically a draw offer. I mean, it's also, if he doesn't want to draw, okay, fine. And he went rook c8. So he spent 10 minutes of his own, and even here, he can still repeat. And I was okay with it. Like I said, I was fine. I was like, look, I need this right now. I need like a reset. I need to get on the board. I have no points. I'm fine with it. It was purely psychological. There's a famous, like in the Soviet chess school, they used to be like, if you lose a game, you never lose 2. And I already did that. So you make a draw in the next game, you reset, you recalibrate, and then you went c5. And again, remember the first part of the funny story. I remember that c6 is slightly better according to the engine. So c5, I was trying to take advantage of. I spent a long time on the next few moves. Not surprising, I spent a long time in this tournament. Like, the general rule of thumb is c5, d4. What I didn't like here was he beat me to the c file with the rook. So I thought he takes, and if I take with the knight, obviously my intention here is to get this diagonal and put my queen on a4. That I calculated correctly. I really didn't like that he has bishop b4. I didn't see a way to successfully defend my knight, because after rook c1, knight e4, the only way to get anything done here is to take on e6, fe6, and maybe put a queen on d4 in some lines, or give up my light squared bishop, which just feels, Or just give it up without taking on e6. So knight e4, bishop e4, like, eh? Another thing I considered was to take and play queen d4, but somehow this felt like I'm bolstering his center. Like, I don't know. He goes here. I didn't see and I didn't really evaluate this that correctly. I was like, why would I play? So I didn't like this. Then I thought about e4, d4, and moving my knight back somewhere, like knight b1, locking the center. Then I was like, what am I doing? Like, what is this? I mean, I'm just going to sit here with this pawn? Okay, I can play a4, knight a3, knight c4, but somehow, I don't know. I don't love this. So I'm like, dude, I can't use either of my center pawns. Of course, I considered a4, knight b5, but like, turns out this is the best move, actually, a4. It perfectly meets everything, and it stops this kind of incoming idea. But I was like, why am I putting, like, what? What's the knight on b5, dude? But yeah, a4, quite nice. And the other idea is that I play knight b5, like let's say bishop b8, and then I can start advancing in the center. Yeah, I should have kind of put that all together, because instead of that, what I did is I played rook c1, and my plan here had been, when he plays d4, I'm going to play knight e4. Like, I saw this move. This was my full plan. I'm not going to take on d4, because if I take on d4, I bring in his bishop. No need for that. I'm going to go knight to e4. And after knight takes, pawn takes, I spent a lot of time looking at pawn to d3, and I couldn't tell, is this pawn going to get captured, or am I dead? You know? Like, bishop f1. I was looking at, a bishop retreat, but apparently the computer says he can even play c4 and put a knight on c5. So bishop b8. I was like, dude, I saw queen f6 here. I couldn't figure out what was going on. Yeah, it turns out after queen f6, I'm not in time to capture, and the only move I have is bishop a1, which I did not see. So my plan was maybe slowly build around the pawn, but there is no slowly building around the pawn here, because he builds around the pawn faster than I do. So I could not, for the life of me, make it work. Like, again, this was my plan. My plan had been this, but suddenly I started seeing a lot of lines where I can't stomp this pawn in time. And the engine says, dude, I even considered rook c4, for God's sake. And I'm not even sure he can take it. Like, and then I, repositioned my knight on d5. I don't know. I was looking at completely absurd things. But knight e4, and yeah, the top engine move after d4 is knight to e4. And then it's to play correctly this position, which is e5. Put the bishop back, like let's say to c7, and then play knight d2. This is the plan. e5, knight d2, with the intention of playing knight c4 and blocking everything. So black's best move is b5. And then it's still not clear what's going on. It's just equal, and black has a pawn on d3. I don't know. Like, again, I was very hesitant. And I don't know if it's because I lost 2 games. I don't know if it's because my coach has given me the advice of, like, in the evening game, especially if you feel like you're tired, don't play a really complicated game, because if you're tired and you're trying to enter complications like this and you're not certain, you're tired, you're not calculating your best, it's going to end poorly. This did not look, I don't know, with the pawn here, and I was not finding a way to get rid of it. Not to mention the fact he can also take on e3. And with my squares pretty well controlled in front of me, I didn't know what my next moves were. So I said, you know what? Even though, yeah, this is the best. I took. He took. Then I played knight e4. And here I had a very simple plan. If he takes this rook, I'm going to take on f6 with check. And then we're going to have mutually assured destruction. He's going to take on d3. I'm going to take on d4. That's going to be the game. So my logic when I played knight e4 is both weaknesses, but I'm going to take one. He's going to take the other. Probably it's going to peter out. By the way, I'm down 27 minutes again because I spent so much time looking at knight e4 in the previous position. So he took on e4. Again, my plan had been, he takes my rook, I take his knight with check. He takes my knight, I'm going to take his rook, right? So I'm going to deflect him off the center. The reason I did not take with my rook first is because I thought that he can deflect me off of one of my pieces here. A move I did not seriously consider is bishop c1. I just didn't consider, I didn't like that I'm getting off the line of my pawn, and then he can just push me backwards. And apparently this is still okay. You'll see it's kind of what happens in the game. Yeah, this is, what ends up happening here is pretty funny, because he plays bishop b7. I put my rook back on e1. I wasn't really sure rook e2, rook e1. I also wasn't sure, like, when I play rook e1, he's obviously going to improve his position and attack my rook. But I didn't know if the bishop is better on d6 or on b4, for me. I couldn't understand for the life of me, so I went rook e2. I don't know where I spent all this time. I think I was considering playing rook e5 here. And obviously rook f1 is terrible. So he goes queen a8. At this point, I'm playing only moves. I'm also down 30 minutes on the clock. Knight h4. We trade, and he plays rook c8. And I sat there looking like, yo, how did this happen? Like, so many things had to go wrong to get here. First of all, my opponent played an opening basically for the first time in his life. I mean, I obviously he prepared and he saw my game, but I'm like, dude, chess is crazy, man. Like, chess is crazy now. You can just look at the game that the guy played in the first round of the tournament. Even though I know something about the line, it's meaningless knowing something about the line if you can't play the middle game correctly. And I'm sitting, like, looking at this position, like, he's trying to play knight g5, knight f3. Like, look at the horrendous light squared weaknesses near my king. Look at my idiot knight. My queen is blocked. The pawn that I thought was a weakness is completely not a weakness. I mean, I can't win it. I just have to sit and play defense like a good boy. And here I did something so stupid. And the move that I would play here in 2 seconds in blitz is h4. Because it does push a pawn in front of my king, but at least it stops knight g5. But I looked at that, and I just didn't know what I was, like, gonna do here. I didn't know what I was gonna do. Now, the engine here gives knight f4. Nice move. And if knight f4, I have rook e8 discover check, and I win the queen. I had considered things like knight to e1. But, I mean, even this position, I was like, man, this looks... I don't know, man. Like, and if not queen f3, okay, he can play like queen d5. I just didn't know I didn't know what my next moves were. So instead of h4, I played rook e5. My idea of rook e5 was that I stopped knight g5. And if he goes back to d6, I'm just going to come back as well. Only, yeah, he goes back to d6, and that's definitely the better spot for the bishop. And now he's simply coming in with knight g5, knight f3. So I never stopped knight g5, knight f3. So here comes knight g5, knight f3 check. Now, here I just started laughing. Like, there's a moment somewhere deep into this recap, into the live stream. I'm bewildered. I really am bewildered, because I did not show up to this game like down. I did not show up tilted. I showed up and I was like, I'm going to play my best and I'm going to try to win. I'm going to get my chance and I'm going to try to win the game. And I am much worse, and I have 15 minutes versus 40. So I remember walking around the room just being like, this is so insane. I'm going to have no points out of 3. I'm going to have 0 out of 3. And I get it. Road to GM is going to be long. It's going to be several years. Also, I'm a dinosaur, like, in competitive chess terms, to try to become GM. I can already imagine some fellow grandmasters and the comments that they make. I can already imagine, like, but I wasn't negative about the whole thing while walking around the room and just like sitting and thinking. I was just like laughing. I was like, wow, this sucks. Like, I wasn't like thinking about quitting. I wasn't thinking, it wasn't like the first one, but I just couldn't believe, like, how is this happening to me? How am I 0 out of 3? How is this possible? But my opponent's got to beat me. So he plays bishop b4. I didn't really understand this move, so I played a3. You know, I figured he was trying to reposition the bishop. Okay, I can't trade, because if I trade, he's not going to take with the rook. He's going to go here, and yeah, I can't simultaneously defend against this pawn and my king. I'm just going to lose. So bishop c3, bishop c1. He plays h6. Now, the good thing is, he spent some time doing this. He did. He played h6, and he walked away from the board. And I got that h. By the way, he has a draw anytime he wants. I'm not going to put my king on h1. King is stupid on h1. He has a draw to repeat moves anytime he wants. He plays h6. He's going to start making now improvements with these pawns. Okay. So I remember looking at this position like, wait, what about rook e4? Did he blunder? Like, I couldn't understand. Rook e4, what? His knight is hanging. How is he going to save his knight? He can't save his knight. So he plays f5. And, I mean, it looks like after rook f4 that the knight is trapped. Like, knight h2, king g1, he can escape, but he loses the f5 pawn. And then this was like a gut punch. I can't play rook f4. If I play rook f4, he has knight e1. Knight to e1. And if I take queen h1 and rook e8, my position is so bad. I just lose everything. Knight to e1 is so brutal. I mean, I can't believe it. But you know what? I actually wasn't that annoyed, because I was like, what about rook e7? I spent 3 minutes just because, like, I had not seen knight e1 at all, so I wanted to make sure I didn't blunder anything. But, you know, I was like, okay, so Mark is trying to do this, but what about his own king? Like, his king is weak. He played king f8 here. I was like, king f8? What is he doing? I'm just going to mate him. And I realized, rook e7, king f8, I can't play queen e2. I mean, it looks like he's the one that's about to get crushed. But if I play queen e2, he has bishop b4 with the discovered attack on my rook and my idiot bishop. I mean, my position is collapsing at the seams. I was like, oh my god, okay, rook e6 back. It's not like he's going to chase me with his king. If he chases me with his king, I figured I can get my knight involved and my queen will come in. It felt weird to put his king on a light square, but guess what? He chased me with his freaking king. I also thought it was bad to play like this because now there is no bishop b4. The bishop does not attack the rook. So, again, I can go back, but then he's going to start marching me down. The best move here is rook d6. To float the rook around his position a little bit longer. And, you know, maybe this is findable. I thought what I did was very practical. Knight to f4. Now, the engine hates it because the engine sees something here. But the point of knight f4 is I'm trying to get him to go g5. Why am I trying to get him to go g5? Because I have nothing else. We're about to have a clash. There's going to be low time. And I figured that when he goes g5, now his king is exposed. His king's exposed. With his king exposed, here comes queen e2. Now if he takes my knight, he might lose. I'm not sure he's going to lose, but it's definitely a draw. So king f8, I was going to take on f4 here. The engine says this is losing. I'm not sure why it's losing. Oh, knight g4. Oh, he blocks, and then this is a mate. And if king g1, then he goes here, here, takes my bishop. Oh, no, 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 no. This is not findable. Not with this. No, no, not with, no, no. Not with this little time. The only winning move here for black is bishop to d2. Threatening on f4, and I can't take because of my rook. Other than that, I'm going queen e6, queen f7. Or queen e5, queen f6, queen g7, all these different things. Yeah, bishop d2 I don't think is possible to see. So, yeah. All right. I play queen e2. And as I'm playing queen e2, I go, oh my god, do you remember bishop b4? Remember when he could have played bishop b4, king f8, queen e2, bishop b4? Remember this? Well, he could do it now. And he found it. Now, my plan here had been to quickly play bishop b2 so that we trade pieces. That was my plan. This had been my plan. And I thought, well, now my bishop could enter the attack, and I have rook e7 ideas. This was my plan. I mean, I figured I was losing. I also here calculated, by the way, with 3 minutes on the clock, nerves of steel, I calculated rook f6. It doesn't work. King f6, queen e6, king g7, and I looked at here, he runs to f8, check, here, check, and he escapes. I don't have enough pieces to do anything. I also calculated queen e6, king g7, and now not knight h5, but let's say queen d7. He can run, knight g6, king g8. I have nothing. I don't have knight e7. I don't have anything. I'm not fast enough. It's kind of heartbreaking, but so once I saw that rook f6 didn't work, I went here, take, and I sat there and was like, oh, I'm losing. I thought I fought back, and I fought valiantly. I fought like a younger man, bold but mistaken, like the words of Bane, because I realized he has knight takes h4. I'm not sure about knight g5, because after knight g5, I actually thought, first of all, maybe I can enter an endgame. I can, like, trade and maybe survive. I also thought I could actually, like, because, again, he's threatening queen h1, I thought I can give up my rook and maybe play this position, because there is no queen h1. So knight g5 didn't work, but knight takes h4 works. Yeah, it's the end of the game. Because he threatens queen h1. There's nothing I can do about queen h1. He also took a pawn on the way out. I can't take his knight. I can't take his pawn. I can't go king g1 because of queen g2 mate. So knight h4. I thought about rook f6, but it doesn't work. He just goes here. And he can even run his king all the way to my side of the board, which is really messed up. This is actually the only winning move. So, yeah. King f7, I think also, but queen h5, I win the knight at least. Because, like, I have this. So, I thought maybe I can survive, but no. Knight takes h4 is winning. And then he went here, and I was like, what? But it's still not easy. I have to take on h6 and allow him to, like, brutalize my king. I have to bring my rook onto h5, and then I thought this was all losing. So I played rook e7, which is the wrong move. I should have taken on h6. But I thought it was better to force his king backwards. But he goes forward. I play rook h7, and now I'm threatening queen e7 and rook h6, but he plays knight to e5, which I saw. Now he re-threatens mate. And by the way, I'm playing these moves with seconds on the clock. So I play rook h7 with 3 seconds on the clock, okay? Then I play king g1, and he plays rook e8, and I realize what's happening. I realize that's it. It's the end of the game. Because once I take on h6, he's going to play king g7, attacking my rook, and then he's threatening knight f3 check. I can't stop knight f3 check winning my queen. I can't stop losing my rook. So I play rook h6 with 1 second on the clock. He goes here. My friends are watching me. They're like standing there because their games are done. The world is watching as Mr. GothamChess is going to fall to 0 out of 3. I can't believe it because I actually thought I made some sort of comeback in this game. And then some sort of like angel just sends me a move. And in my darkest hour, I sacrificed the rook to h7. It's almost iconic. It's almost iconic. I didn't even want to do the voice. One of my pet peeves is when a fan recognizes me on the street and they're an adult. Children I will forgive. They're an adult and they want me to scream the rook at them. They're like 30 years old and they're like, the rook! I'm like, we're in public. Stop. But I can imagine, the rook, sweet, it's all, iconic. I played rook h7 check. And the point is, my rook's not going anywhere. If he wants to take it, I fork him and then I win his rook, and now he doesn't win my queen, and I dance and I dance and I dance and I dance, and then he can't mate me. He can't mate me. He can't win my queen. but you know what's really funny? After rook h7 check, I did have a thought. Can he run away? Can he run that way? And the answer is yes. Yes. But when I played rook h7 check, he had a minute. It's not easy to run. Oops. It's not easy to run in front of your own rook. This does, I mean, yeah, he has rook g8. He's always in time. It's not easy. I mean, you start finding a lot of creative ways to lose, and here he has to find knight to f7. If he goes king d8, I'm also fast enough. So, fortunately for me, but okay, like, I lost the last game due to time. I saved this game due to time. He played this move with 4 seconds on the clock. He didn't see running away. He probably should have ran, but I take his rook, and now the game ends in a perpetual check. He really should not try to avoid it. Like, if king g6, I was ready with h5. And then if king h5, I actually have queen e2 and I win the game, which is pretty nice. Then people would have accused the game of being rigged. But no, he did not do that. And we repeated moves. That was the game. Filled with funny stories, potential draw offers on move 12, complete psychological trauma, and an epic comeback by sacrificing my rook to get a perpetual check, which my opponent could have avoided if he had unbelievable nerves and walked his king across the fire to the other side of the board. But that's how it goes sometimes. And sometimes, sometimes we get lucky, sometimes we don't get lucky. I am on the board. I am happy about that. My friend and I were discussing this. We think Mark Paragua is one of the strongest grandmasters in the world, rated 2440. Mark Paragua's peak rating is like 2620 FIDE, like 15 years ago or something. I mean, dude was a monster. He's really not bad. It's crazy he's 2449. This is what happens when you basically just play norm events and you don't play competitive chess at the elite level like that seriously anymore. So he was really, really, really good. He was one of the best players in the Philippines, if not the best, before Wesley So. So he's really strong. And I saved the game. So friendly reminder, as always, courses are on sale until the tournament is over. We fought. I don't want to rehash everything. I thought this was a pretty fun recap. And with that, I will say, get out of here. See you for the next ones.